There is no other arc in One Piece that has been anticipated by fans as hard and as long as Elbaf, the country with the strongest warriors in the world, home of the notorious giants, and territory of the Emperor Shanks. And so today I want to talk about everything that could and should happen in this long-awaited arc, starting from the things that are absolutely 100% going to happen, like Usopp leading an army of mighty giants, or Luffy finally reuniting with Shanks, and then slowly moving to the most insane Elbaf theories out there, like how God Enel is going to return to attack the land of giants as well. But let's start at the beginning, because since Dr. Vegapunk has given us the intel that Jaguar D. Saul is alive and well and hiding the remains of the library of Ohara on Elbaf, it's now basically guaranteed that the Straw Hat's next destination is going to be the Island of Giants. Not even mentioning this note from Oda at the Jump Festa that all but guarantees us that we're getting some real giant-sized action in One Piece in 2024. In fact, during the Egghead Island arc, Oda treated fans to a detour to check on what all of the other Yonko besides Luffy are currently up to. And as it turns out, most of them have basically been spending their downtime absolutely obliterating Luffy's supernova allies Kid and Law. In fact, when Eustace Kid threatened the weakling pirates that called Shanks their friend, the superior red-haired pirate wiped out the master of magnetism who took down Big Mom with just a single slash of his sword. And our old friends from Little Garden way back, Dory and Broggy here, also wiped out Kid's ship with their signature technique, Hakoku Sovereignty. And so, thanks to this cutaway to Shanks and the giant pirates, we do know that Luffy's touchdown in Elbaf would mean a reunion with some old friends. Usopp, for one, is sure going to be excited to reunite with his heroes Dory and Broggy, who the crew hasn't seen since Little Garden in the Alabasta saga. However, on top of that, Usopp might also get to see his other giant comrades like Olmo and Kashi, who were guards at Enies Lobby until Usopp revealed that the government had tricked them into their service. And because we're meeting all of these Elbaf giants once again, maybe even Hydrogen will show up along with the rest of the Grand Fleet, depending on what kind of mortal threat emerges on the island of Elbaf. And of course, I'll be talking about who the big bad evil of Elbaf might actually be in just a bit. But of course, this reunion with the giants is going to be nothing compared to the reunion that we've all been waiting for since chapter 1 of the series, because that's right, Luffy will finally reunite with Shanks once again now that he's become a powerful pirate, a Yonko in the very same class as his mentor. And how will that play out? Well, Luffy is sure to shed tears just like he did when he met with Sabo again. However, we don't think that the tears will come right away. Instead, I think before Shanks even gets to mutter much at all, he'll probably get a gum punch right to the face, with Luffy finally proving that his punches are as strong as pistols. But jokes aside here, there's actually no real guarantee that the reunion of these two will be totally friendly, because at the end of Wano, Shanks declared that it's finally time for him and his crew to seek out the One Piece as well. And we're actually not sure how many road poneglyphs Shanks actually has already claimed, but Luffy and the Straw Hats have 3 of them, and it's very unlikely that Shanks has the ones from Zou or from Wano, since those were very well hidden by their respective people and only shared them with the Straw Hats after they had saved their countries. So does this mean that just how Kid got wrecked, Luffy will also find himself at the end of Shanks' sword? Will Shanks finally reveal his true colors in order to get his hands on the poneglyphs? Well, he probably doesn't need to, since he likely retrieved all of the poneglyph etchings from what little remains of Kid's crew at this point. I mean, after all, they did offer them to him in order to try and save themselves just before their ship was then demolished by Dory and Broggy. And speaking of which, we're going to have to find out exactly what became of Eustace Kid. I mean, for one, Luffy will definitely be surprised to see that his rival who helped take out Big Mom and Kaido has been decimated by his old mentor. Now, to be fair, we of course know how bad Oda is at actually killing off characters, so is Kid actually dead here, or will he show back up on Elbaf with even more metal body parts? Enough that he could be straight up mistaken for a Frankie creation at this point. Will he finally give up on trying to defeat Shanks, or will he crawl his way back onto Elbaf only to give us a shocked Enel face when he sees Luffy and Shanks palling around eating giant husks of meat together? In fact, I think that might only be one of many Enel faces that we'll get in this arc, but more on that in just a moment. First off, Shanks would make for a hell of a twist villain. I mean, just imagine Luffy's mentor and hero who inspired him to become a pirate from the very beginning ending up being the ultimate obstacle preventing him from his dream. That would just be devastating. But as popular as as the evil Shanks theory is, I honestly just don't see it. He has an entire fleet of weak pirates who he defends even though they're not strong enough to make it in the new world by themselves. He stopped the war at Marineford to prevent further bloodshed. He inspires young pirates like Luffy and then the young giant on Elbaf to become pirates. And of course, he did help Luffy on Wano as well. So he just doesn't seem that evil, as mysterious as he admittedly is. In fact, maybe we'll even get an answer to some of the mysteries that surround Shanks in this arc. Like, is he actually a celestial dragon, as it does seem like? Why was he found in a treasure chest on God Valley? Only makes sense that we get more answers to all these questions and more in this Shanks-centered arc. However, as far as we know, Shanks doesn't actually seem to have a way to read the poneglyphs, so maybe there's another way besides force to get something he needs. And so instead of going all out in a bloody battle against the Straw Hats, maybe we'll just get a return of the good old Davy backfight. After all, Long Ring Long Island is one of the few One Piece arcs that doesn't appear to have much foreshadowing or connections to any of the other arcs so far, which makes many One Piece fans speculate that the Davy backfight will play some important role at some point in the story. And so I mean, just imagine a foot race between Sanji and Lucky Roux, who is supposed to be the fastest character in the series. We have a musical matchup between Soul King Brook and another Rockstar, even though Bonk Punch is their actual musician, and the ultimate game of darts between father and son when Usopp finally gets to show his father Yasopp just how much he has grown as a sniper. Oh, and yeah, actually speaking of Usopp, if Whole Cake Island gave us the year of Sanji and Wano gave Zoro a ton of focus, then welcome to the year of Usopp, I think. Because no character has dreamed of visiting Elbaf more than Usopp. He's been the one to make friends with all of the giants that the crew has met along their journey, well, except Hyruujin, but that's only because Hyruujin just straight up started worshipping Usopp as a god. And so I think it's just fitting that on the island of brave and powerful warriors, Usopp will also finally be able to reunite with his father, Yasopp. However, this is sure to be the arc that Usopp finally lives out his dream of becoming a brave warrior of the sea. Most One Piece fans, including you I assume, know that Usopp's lies have had a tendency in the story to actually come true, which also means that in this arc, it's very likely that Usopp will lead an army of 8,000 men. And not just any old men, I mean an army of actual giants. Who exactly will this army be fighting, you ask? Well, only time will tell, but we do have some ideas. But on top of that, Usopp is also due for a massive power-up, and while I can definitely see him using Vegapunk tech to get the most technologically advanced slingshot of all time, Elbaf will be the actual arc that Usopp taps into his new Haki ability. For one, he's already had one of the greatest observation Haki feats in the series when he took out Sugar on Dressrosa from miles away, but this might just be the arc when he taps into Conqueror's Haki as well. Yes. Because after all, someone fit to lead an entire army of 8,000 giants does seem like a quite decent candidate to have the color of the Supreme King, as much as it might be weird to think about right now. And actually, speaking of Conqueror's Haki users, we might just get the return of a former Yonko as well. Big Mom, albeit with way more lava scars in that case. I mean, I just mentioned with Kid how bad Oda is actually with killing off characters, so will Big Mom crawl her way back out of the lava beneath Wano to seek revenge against the Straw Hats and their allies once again? But even if Big Mom is actually dead, she'll be sure to affect the Elbaf arc one way or another, because her flashback with Mother Caramel is the first time that we actually got to see Elbaf in the manga. And honestly, it also felt like certain plot threads in Whole Cake Island were unresolved, with Big Mom seeking to ally with the giants and add Elbaf to her forces, enabling her to finally claim the One Piece. We're also certain to meet Loki, the Prince of the Giants, who was arranged to marry Big Mom's daughter Lola. And I mean, maybe while we're at it, we'll even get to see Lola again, as well as her twin sister Chiffon, along with Capone Beige and Pounce. Basically, it'll be a Whole Cake Island reunion. And while we're at it, if Blackbeard shows up in this arc as well as a villain, it would make sense for the remnants of the Big Mom pirates to face him down, since he's the one who kidnapped Pudding. And so Katakuri and Luffy could actually join forces to maybe make the stretchiest team in all of manga. And while I'm talking about Big Mom, will the giants kind of recognize Zeus and freak out once Nami shows up on the island as well? I mean, given their intense history with Mother Caramel and Big Mom, a lot of them are sure to recognize the concept of homies, and some of them might even even recognize Zeus specifically. And insane transition incoming, Zeus isn't the only lightning user, of course, who we're bound to see on Elbaf. Because if there's a Loki, then we do need a Thor, and as it happens, Thor is a signature attack of the one and only god Enel. Now, for anyone who's actually been skipping their cover stories, first of all, you're missing out insanely, because one cover story has confirmed that Enel survived 𝙻𝚎𝚐𝚐 and actually ended up flying his Arc Maxime all the way to the fairy worth, in other words, the moon. So yeah, that's right, it's time for Moon Piece. On the moon, he found the remnants of an advanced civilization and used his electricity to awaken a literal robot army of automatons. Oh, and also he met actual space pirates. Like, there's no way that all of that doesn't become relevant in the story at some point. And with the final saga well underway at this point, we're kind of running out of time to bring Enel back into the fold. So it's only a matter of time before this wannabe god shows back up. In fact, we'll probably learn a lot more about many of the Sky Islanders in general in Elbaf. For example, the Mad Monk 𝙻𝚎 is the last supernova that has yet to play an actual role in one of the story arcs. And it just so happens that 𝙻𝚎 is from Birka, the same sky island that Enel is from and destroyed before moving on to 𝙻𝚎𝚐 with his priests. In fact, it's very much possible that 𝙻𝚎 even used to be one of Enel's priests before they parted ways. And Elbaf will very likely treat us to a lot more lore about the Sky Islands in general, because when the Straw Hats went to 𝙻𝚎𝚐, the Sky Islanders were shocked that they'd actually used the knock-up stream to arrive there, since it's an extremely dangerous route to take. And so they actually referenced that the more common and normal way to travel to 𝙻𝚎𝚐 is by taking something called the High West Road. And so could this path be in the New World on Elbaf and maybe even be connected to the treasure tree Adam? As you know, during Big Mom's flashback, we see a giant black mass rising completely perpendicular to the land. In fact, it's so big that we only get a sliver of its total size from that panel. However, just based on this, most fans speculate that this is actually the legendary treasure tree Adam, the tree known for having the strongest wood in the world, which coincidentally the Thousand Sunny is made out of as well. And so could climbing this tree be the secret to reaching other Sky Islands? After all, the giant warriors of Elbaf are based on Norse mythology, which features the world tree Yggdrasil, which stretches all the way up to Asgard, the realm of the gods in the sky. And of course, if the moon in some way or form does become relevant and the Straw Hats do need to learn more about the ancient civilizations of the One Piece world in Elbaf, they might need to go even higher than just the Sky Islands. Luckily, as it happens, they have now befriended the greatest scientist in the One Piece world, and if anyone is capable of actually creating space travel again, it is going to be Dr. Vegapunk. But of course, the moon is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the wild lore reveals that Oda's probably going to give us in Elbaf. For one, on Egghead Island, we learned that Robin's favorite giant, Jaguar D Sol, is still alive and well, hiding on Elbaf. And that means that it's extremely likely that he's uncovered the secrets that the scholars of Ohara learned as well. In fact, we might finally get to hear the words that Professor Clover was killed for threatening to reveal: the name of the ancient kingdom itself. But at the very least, we'll definitely learn the location of the final poneglyph and who could be guarding it if it is not on Elbaf itself with Shanks. In fact, Jaguar D Sol is one of the contenders to be revealed as the man with the burn scars, since he survived the burning of Ohara. However, since the man with the burn scars is supposed to be hiding on an all-black ship surrounded by whirlpools, Sol doesn't quite fit the description. However, Elbaf will likely give us a clue as to where this mysterious figure can be found. And speaking of the Adam tree, we might finally learn more about the treasure tree Adam and its counterpart, the sunlight tree Eve, which grows around Merijoa. And what does grow on trees? Yeah, fruits, like devil fruit. So while we already got a lot of new information about devil fruits on Egghead Island, we might learn even more of their origins and secrets on Elbaf. And along with the Norse mythology that's inspired characters like Shanks, Loki, and the other giants who all take after Vikings, maybe we'll learn even more. Because all the way back in Little Garden, when Dory and Broggy used their Hakoku sovereignty technique to defeat the island eater fish, they do mention that the only thing that their attacks can pierce is the serpent soaked in blood. And as it happens, Norse mythology features a creature called the Jormungandr, the giant snake that wraps around the entire world. So, what's something that wraps around all the way the One Piece world and is also red? The color of something soaked in blood? That's right, the red line itself. So maybe we'll even get to learn the history of this expansive geological structure, along with another winged race of people who lived there, which are the Lunarians. Once again, the gods. And who knows, maybe we'll even see an apocalyptic war on the level of the Norse myth of Ragnarok. Well, we've already seen weapons with apocalyptical powers in the series, the ancient weapons, and the 3 islands that have had the most buildup in the entire series were Fishman Island, Wano, and Elbaf. Fishman Island, which was first mentioned during Arlong Park, ended up being the hiding place of Poseidon, aka Princess Shirahoshi. Wano, which was first mentioned in Thriller Bark, is the hiding place of the battleship Pluton. So will Elbaf, which was first referenced all the way back on Little Garden, be the place where we actually see Uranus in action as well? Actually, since it's possible that Uranus is the weapon that was used by Emu to destroy the Lulusia kingdom, we may have already seen it, but Elbaf could be the place where the world government tries to use it against the Straw Hats themselves, if it's not there. And of course, that's not the only possibility, because maybe the real Uranus is whatever hatched from the giant egg on the back of Roger's ship, the Oro Jackson. But most important of all, though, is that there's probably going to be more lore about the sun god Nika. Thanks to Mother Caramel during Big Mom's flashback, we already know that the giants of Elbaf worship a sun god as well, and that means that Elbaf is the perfect place to learn more about the original sun god Nika and the original Joy Boy and their actions during the Void Century. In fact, as we know, Emu is also guarding a giant straw hat within Pangaea Castle, and it's likely that the original Joy Boy might even have been a giant, or at least a member of the Buccaneer tribe like Bartholomew Kuma, and the person who's inherited his will has somehow retained the same sense of fashion. But what better way to learn about this ancient giant than from the giants of today? But of course, even more than just lore piece, what fans are really craving, including me from Elbaf, is non-stop giant-sized action. We want to see battle axes the size of buildings flying around and super-sized Conqueror hockey clashes, so who will be the ultimate villain of the Elbaf arc? Will another Gorosei or even Emu descend on the island after Saturn gets possibly stomped on Egghead Island? I mean, that would be a great reason for Uranus to show up, as well as a good reason for the Straw Hats to call on the help of the Grand Fleet. After all, the world government has been trying to use science to recreate giants for ages, and maybe this time they'll come straight to the source. Will the God Knights maybe even leap into action, resulting in Shanks having a re-encounter with his past when his probably father, Figel Garling, also sets foot on Elbaf? What if Prince Loki is very much unlike the rest of the kindly giants that we've met so far, and a lot more like his trickster namesake from Norse mythology? Maybe the Straw Hats will actually find themselves at odds with the giant royalty. Or perhaps there will be an even greater twist where someone who we assumed is a friend is actually an antagonist, and the evil Shanks theory will actually come true after all. Or maybe we'll even get a completely anticlimactic Enel rematch with him leading a giant robot army against the land of giants. But of course, more than any of these, there is one villain more likely than any other for Elbaf: Blackbeard. For one, Shanks has been a rival of Blackbeard throughout the entire series. Teach gave him his signature scar across his eyes, and Shanks took the time to warn Whitebeard of the threat that the wielder of the Darkness Fruit possessed. At Marineford, Blackbeard stated that it wasn't time for his crew to face Shanks yet, which implies that the two will fight before the end of the series. And so Blackbeard could roll up to Elbaf in search of the remaining poneglyph, either to steal whichever one Shanks might have, or to gain clues from Jaguar D. Saul. After all, Oda did state that his primary hobby is archaeology, so he would love to get his hands on the remains of Ohara's library. And of course, as he approached, he would lay waste to the weakling crews that are allied with Shanks, succeeding where Kid failed. He would probably have an epic matchup with Shanks, making for one of the greatest duels in One Piece history. Shanks, the greatest hockey master in all of One Piece, versus Blackbeard, the only character who somehow wields multiple devil fruits. And who knows, maybe we'll even get the reveal of Blackbeard's long-rumored third devil fruit as well, which many fans think to be a Cerberus or Kraken or some other mythical zone to go along with his Logia and Paramecia. And of course, the worst and most likely outcome of this fight is that Shanks would actually lose before Luffy is able to arrive. Imagine the heartbreak that every One Piece fan would feel if Luffy was finally able to reunite with Shanks and return the Straw Hat to him, only for Shanks to give dying words of how proud he is of Luffy and leaving the One Piece and the title of King of Pirates in the hands of the next generation. Ugh. I'll be real, even though it's likely, I personally don't want this to happen at all, because Shanks dying at the hands of a coward like Blackbeard would honestly be kind of criminal. However, the resulting rage that Luffy would fly into in facing down Blackbeard, who was now responsible for the deaths of the two most important people in his life, would be the most intense scene in the entire series so far. And on top of everything that we already mentioned, Elbaf is also sure to deliver one of the craziest arcs in One Piece in general by finally letting us know more about the culture of the giant race. And of course, there are actually still many people in One Piece that we still need to learn more about, like the Lunarians and the Sky Islanders. And so here's to hoping that we will get more answers about all of these in Elbaf as well. But for now, you can get a reminder on everything that we know about every race in all of One Piece by checking out this video right here. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.